the Bible Study Podcast, episode 752. Today, the Bible Study Podcast continues a study of the book of Amos with chapter 4. Welcome to the Bible Study Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Christensen. Amos, as we've said, is one of the minor prophets, and he has been sent to Israel in particular to tell them to return to God because they have been unfaithful and have been serving other gods. And this particular chapter is titled, Israel Has Not Returned to God. Hear this word, you cows of Bashan on Mount Samaria, you women who oppress the poor and crush the needy, and say to your husbands, bring us some drinks. The sovereign Lord has sworn by his holiness. The time will surely come when you will be taken away with hooks, the last of you with fish hooks. You will each go straight out through the breaches in the wall, and you will be cast out toward Harmon, declares the Lord. Go to Bethel and sin. Go to Gilgal and sin yet more. Bring your sacrifices every morning, your tithes every 3 years. Burn leavened bread as a thank offering, and brag about your freewill offerings. Boast about them, you Israelites, for this is what you love to do, declares the sovereign Lord. I gave you empty stomachs in every city and lack of bread in every town, yet you have not returned to me, declares the Lord. I also withheld rain from you when the harvest was still 3 months away. I sent rain on one town, but withheld it from another. One field had rain, another had none, and dried up. People staggered from town to town for water, but did not get enough to drink. Yet you have not returned to me, declares the Lord. Many times I struck your gardens and vineyards, destroying them with blight and mildew, locusts devouring your fig and olive trees, yet you have not returned to me, declares the Lord. I sent plagues among you as I did to Egypt. I killed your young men with the sword, along with your captured horses. I filled your nostrils with the stench of your camps, yet you have not returned to me, declares the Lord. I overthrew some of you as I overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. You were like a burning stick snatched from the fire, yet you have not returned to me, declares the Lord. Therefore this is what I will do to you, Israel, and because I will do this to you, Israel, prepare to meet your God. He who forms the mountains, who creates the wind, and who reveals his thoughts to mankind, who turns dawn to darkness and treads on the heights of the earth. The Lord God Almighty is his name. It's an interesting form for this particular prophecy from Amos because it has this almost call response, you could see this being made into a song with this verse, this chorus of, yet you have not returned to me, declares the Lord. And he's really calling them back, and he's saying, I have tried all of these things, and it hasn't worked. Right? And so surely the time will come when you will be taken away with hooks, the last of you with fish hooks. That is not something I want to be led away with hooks. That doesn't sound very pleasant. I'm not sure why fish hooks are any better than hooks, or if it's any worse, but that is definitely something that is on my list of things to avoid, being led around with hooks. So this word goes out, and when it goes out to the cows of Bashan on Mount Samaria, we can assume that Amos is not preaching to the bovines, that this is not really talking about cows, or that God has anything particularly against the cows. But he is declaring to the people on Mount Samaria, which would be, among other things, one of the places where the worship of these other gods has been happening. And declare this, you cows on Bashan, you women who oppress the poor and crush the needy. And again, we've talked about one of the things that God talks about in the prophets a lot is this desire that God has for justice. And it's interesting to me this week, because this week as I'm recording this, we've seen this invasion of one country into another, a more powerful country invading a weaker one. And it seems wrong to me for that to happen, as so many things seem wrong when people who have power just use their power without regard to whether it's right. And God doesn't like that either, whether it's on that scale or whether it's on the scale of people who are oppressing the poor and crushing the needy, people who are using their power to make it more difficult for those who have so little power. And that can be people who are outside of the law, the illegal alien, the poor, the people who have mental issues or whatever, the people who need help, to instead giving them help, giving them oppression, is something that the prophets keep talking about. How do you treat the widow, the orphan, and the stranger? And so this woman who is oppressing the poor and just saying to her husband, bring us some drinks, is not the ideal picture of what God is wanting the people of God to be like. And so we're going to be cast out. The people of God here are going to be cast out and taken out through the breaches in the wall. Well, the breaches in the wall probably means because somebody has breached the wall. They have been attacked. They're going to be attacked by their neighbors, and they're going to be taken away. And then it says, go to Bethel and sin. Go to Gilgal and sin yet more. It's like, yeah, go ahead. It's not because God has suddenly decided that he likes sin. But he says, and bring your sacrifices every morning and your tithes every 3 years. Burn your leavened bread as a thank offering. Do all of these ritual motions. Go through the motion of all of these things that you do. And then see if that helps. Brag about your free will offerings. Boast about them, you Israelites, for this is what you love to do. You love to boast about your righteousness. Is apparently what they're boasting about. This is how much money I give to the poor. We're really good with keeping up our offerings of the leavened bread. We're really good with keeping our morning sacrifices. We're really good at keeping our tithes. But apparently, when they're not doing that, when they're away from not the temple, but the place of worship, not only would we have this problem with them serving other gods, but they're also living a double life because they are going through the motions of being religious, but they're oppressing the poor, as we saw, and they're boasting about their righteousness, but they're going into Bethel and sinning. They're going to Gilgal and sinning some more. And so what God is going to do here through Amos is go through some of the litany of, you remember people who were behaving the way you did and what happened to them. So he's going to bring up Sodom and Gomorrah. He's going to bring up Egypt, that had those plagues sent to them to change their minds, and saying, you also have had plagues sent. You also will be overthrown, some of you like Sodom and Gomorrah were. Why do you think I will treat you any differently? And so he talks about all the things that he has done. People staggering from town to town for water because he stopped it from raining. The gardens and the vineyards being struck with blight and mildew, and the olive trees being devoured, and the plagues being sent like in Egypt, being overthrown like Sodom and Gomorrah. And all of these things I did, and yet you have not returned to me, declares the Lord. The whole purpose of all of these things that God has been doing is so they will return to him. And so this pattern, this call response, this chorus here of yet, you have not returned to me, declares the Lord. And then we get to verse 12. Therefore, all of these things have happened, yet you have not returned to me, declares the Lord. Therefore, this is what I will do. Prepare to meet your God. And when it's said in this fashion, prepare to meet your God, this God who is unhappy with you, this is not the way you want to meet your God. This is not the way you want to come in contact with the one who formed the mountains, creates the winds, reveals his thoughts to mankind, turns dawn into darkness, treads on the heights of the earth. The Lord God Almighty is his name, and he is coming. And he's coming for you. And that's the message that Amos is bringing to the people of Israel, and it's not good news. And on that cheery note, we're going to end with this episode of the Bible Study Podcast. If you have any questions, send an email to host@thebiblestudypodcast.com, or better yet, leave a comment on this episode at thebiblestudypodcast.com. And thanks so much for listening.
I'm Dr. Lauren DeVille, a practicing naturopathic physician in Tucson, Arizona. In my podcast, Christian Natural Health, my guests and I discuss topics ranging from nutrition, sleep, hormone balancing, and exercise to specific health concerns like hair loss, anxiety, and hypothyroidism. I'll also interweave biblical principles as they apply throughout the podcast because true health is body, mind, and spirit. Listen to Christian Natural Health for free at lifeaudio.com or on your favorite podcast platform.